Welcome to my reading, and today I'm gonna be reading you my story, which is The Dark Rebellion by Leona London, which is me. So one day in Anshkard Ashar, there were three girls, Violet, Chris, and Joanna. Hey Violet, Chris yells. What are you doing? And not, not much really, Violet responds. Let's go meet up with Joanna at a cafe, hey Chris said. The girls chat some more and talk about politics. They have to keep their voice down because the government tracks everything they say. And this country was actually formed in when refugees around the world and created after a catastrophic event devastated the modern world. They finally meet up with Joanna. Hey guys, Joanna exclaims. It's so good at night. So good to see you guys. Joanna had a French accent due to her family coming from there. And however, the government had been keen on wiping out and persecuting minorities. Emperor K is a ruthless dictator who ruled the country with an iron fist. He enforced laws that oppressed and persecuted minorities in the country. Thousands have suffered thanks to his regime. Although Violet has always hated him, so she came up with a plan. She came up with a plan to protest his regime, and so they can be free. Although she knew it was risky. The day finally came, and it was the middle of the main street of the capital where Emperor K was delivering a speech from the balcony in the imperial palace. We must be stronger. We also must faster fight the terror of these dirty infidels, he yelled. Suddenly, in the back of the crowd, people started to chant and hold up placards aiming to take down the dictator. However, the military intervened and began firing on the protesters. People were screaming everywhere, and there were people running around. At this point, the news had spread like wildfire, and cities across the country were in conflict. The protesters were of minority descent and ancestry who were just tired of being oppressed and discriminated on by the oppressive regime. The protesters had forced their way into the imperial palace and had ransacked everything that was in their way. They bombed the main power outlet that was keeping the palace locked from outsiders. Finally, they reached the office where Emperor K resided. They knocked on the door, however, he was nowhere to be found. The people erupted into celebration, and the country was finally liberated. We did it, you guys, Violet said. And Violet became the new president of the country and is honored as a national hero for fighting and protecting her culture and beliefs. And the others, Chris is now living as a successful writer, and Joanna is now the new prime minister of the country, and are now allowing their citizens to have free elections and free speech. Okay, thank you for listening to my story.
Hello everyone, my name is Alia and I'm going to start telling about the book that I make. It's called The Memory Keepers. My name is Rima and now I am hiding. It's so dark in here. I wonder what's going on there. Whether it's day or night, I don't know. My sister is now sleeping very tired. She even has very serious injuries caused by people out there just like me. This happens because people out there don't want to preserve history. Those of us who want history to remain suffer a lot, to the point where we have to hide in very dark place like this. We haven't even eat because of those people. Why the government don't want to keep the history, even though history is good for learning from the past? Everyone, the government knows we are here. We must quickly find a new hiding place, said one of the people from our organization. Me and the people in this organization were looking for a new hiding place. When I was running to get away from them, I saw many people being shot. At the time, I really want to cry, but I had to stay strong and keep running from them. Right now, I'm running while holding my sister's hand, and I don't even know what happened to my parents. Everyone stop, we found a new hiding place, said the leader of our organization. I also felt relief because we finally found a hiding place that was quite safe and magnificent. Let's enter this place, I said to my sister. When I entered this place, I saw lots of people who were injured. Then I saw one of the people from our organization named Arum. Hi Rima and Alana, are you okay? Is there any injury to your body? Autumn said. Yes, Lana is my sister name, and she is now 7 years old. Still very young, right? Yeah, we're both fine. Maybe just tired. And have you seen my parents? I said to Autumn. Here, I show your parents, said Autumn. I finally walked towards my parents, and finally I saw my parents. But this is your parents. Yes, his condition is very serious, said Autumn. My parents' current condition is very unstable, with lots of benches, lots of wounds, blind and like they want to die, and I almost don't even recognize them as my parents. Are they really my parents? I said to Autumn. Yes, your parents are in very serious condition, are they? Autumn said. I started to shed tears. Why did this happen? Even though we only want to preserve history right now, I feel like I have no energy. I'm really not in the mood. I don't even want to eat. I don't want anything now. I feel very tired. The next day, my parents died. My feelings right now are very mixed, angry and want to cry. However, I remember my parents' message that I have to stay strong. Sister, what happened to our parents? Where do we want our parents to be taken? My sister said. Our parents have now left us. But do you remember our parents' message that we must remain enthusiastic in living our life? I said to my sister. Yes, I remember that. We have to remain enthusiastic in living this life, said Lana. Time elapsed. I could live my life hiding from the government and do it well. But when I and the members of the organization were telling history to the people out there, suddenly we were discovered by the government. Everything is already known by the government, said one of the organization. I also managed to run away with my sister. I saw many people killed very cruelly and many arrests. When I saw that, I was reminded of what happened to my parents who had died at that time. After that, I returned to the hiding place with my sister. Oh, it's very tragic. I remember the incident when my parents died because of the government. It's very quiet here. I actually only have my sister at the moment. I also live a life full of sadness again and again. I can't even feel it anymore. Okay, Rima, you have to stay strong and you have to keep this history alive. I also try to encourage myself. When my sister and I were in a dark hiding place, my sister and I accidentally overheard a very serious conversation between this organization. The conversation contained that they found an underground shelter that the government didn't know about. That place also turned out to have allies who had the same goal. However, the journey there is very far. Our feelings become afraid. Can we go there safely or not? We decided to leave. The journey was very dangerous. The government was near and we had to pass through an open area. I held Lana's hand tightly, not wanting to lose her. The sound of gunshot echoed in the distance, making my heart beat faster. At one point, the government soldiers were so close that I felt it was the end. However, something unexpected happened. A group of civilians who believe in the importance of history showed up to help us escape. They resisted, creating a diversion that allowed us to continue our journey. For the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of a hope. We finally arrived at the underground shelter. A large steel door opened in front of us, welcoming us into a spacious room filled with books, ancient artifacts, and smiling people welcoming us. Welcome, said a middle-aged woman, touching my shoulder. You're safe here. A doctor immediately approached us. Your sister needs to be looked after, he said softly. Lana was taken to the treatment room, and I was finally able to sit up. My body felt very tired. When Lana came out of the treatment room with a bandage in her hand, she smiled slightly. We did it, sis, he said. I smiled back, holding back the tears that were about to fall. Yeah, we did it. Over time, we rebuilt our organization. We were trained in security, learn how to preserve history without detection, and even connect with other groups around the world. Gradually, our effort began to inspire others. The movement to protect history is growing stronger, and more people are joining us. Lana, although she very young, began to help in her own way. He talks to other children about the importance of remembering their past. Her resilience gave me strength. Years later, our struggle finally paid off. The old government fell after massive protests, and the new rules support historical preservation. Lana and I no longer live in hiding. I now work in a museum managing the artifacts we once worked so hard to save. Lana often comes to visit. Now she is a young speaker who inspires new generation to appreciate the past. Sis, look at this, he said one day, pointing to an old book in the display case. This is the book we brought on that trip, right? That's right, I answered with a smile. The book is a symbol of our struggle. I look at Lana, who had now grown into a thought and enthusiastic girl. All the pain and fear of the past feels insignificant compared to the peace we feel now. Thank you, sis, said Lana suddenly. What for? I asked. For never give up. I held his hand. We never give up, Lana, and that's what keeps us going. Okay, so that's all for my storytelling, and I hope you like it. Bye.
In the heart of Indonesia archipelago, there's a small island which has really rich landscape where you can see beautiful sunset and sunrise almost every day. Bali is the famous island in many different ways. This was home to Suta, a young boy that born in Bali. Every day they always do their ritual culture where they dance together and eat together. Suta home are very peaceful, but this has become a turn off. Suta peaceful home began to crumble when the foreigner discovered the Bali paradise. Few tourists begin to visit the Bali paradise. So far it's not a big deal, but this suddenly changed. There were so many foreigners coming and visit the Bali. The Bali Islands are crowded and full of foreigners. By 2035, nearly half of the island had passed into the hands of outsiders. The foreigners buy most of the island in the Bali and transform into villas and commercial development. The once quiet homes were now overrun with the sound of construction, the hum of heavy machinery. This is just the beginning. After the situation got worse, Sultan and the local began to feel the pressure. The foreigners had controlled so much land in Bali, and they were no longer free to practice their ritual and maintain their culture and much more. Every day the pressure that locals have is more intense. Well, Sultan accepts this fate, but not for long, because as it turned out, the foreigner literally had the leader named Sran Santiago. He was selected to lead the foreigner in the Bali. He is not a good leader. Sran didn't respect the local, and he also just want the foreigner to have a free access to the Bali paradise. This will continue until something happens. The foreigner leader Sran somehow able to make a law. The locals are restricted to their culture every day. This really impact the local. They were crushed hearing this, and this one small thing has a power to change everything to the local. Suta on other hand really struggled to keep this ongoing, because Suta have a big heart on the Balinese culture. It was hard time for the locals, especially Suta. On their hand, the foreigners really enjoyed it. They could enjoy every beach in the Bali Islands, playing the game and basically everything, because they were free to do anything. Week to month there is no change on the Bali Islands. The condition just keep worsening. The foreigner didn't want to accept the diversity. One time Suta heard that the foreigner had a plan to buy his village. This time Suta wasn't messing around. That day Suta began to make a small group where they gathered together and discussed this particular problem. Not long after they finished the discussion, the forager come to the village and investigate. The forager keeps smiling when they investigate the village. This is a sign that the forager really want this village. One week after that moment, Saran gave a letter to the village. The letter say, "Next week you guys will move out. The village will be owned by me." Suta's heart clenched. This was no longer just about the land or building, it was about the Balinese culture itself. But Suta doesn't let this happen to him, and for the locals. Determined to save his home, he sought out the head of his village and hoped they could help him and find a solution. Surprisingly, the head of the village just wanted to accept the fate. He didn't want to act a single inch for his village. But since he saw Suta is really energized and really want to keep his village, the H village is aware if they still have a chance to save their home. In that day, the village head was able to gather all the villagers and discuss to preserve their own culture and the village. The villagers have no ideas about this kind of action or strategy that the villager has planning about. They prioritize other projects first before they come back to this project. It's a good news for the villager because they will have more preparation on it. On a beautiful evening, the villagers gather in one secret place where they discuss about the solution to prevent this problem. They know that they need to prepare for the next situation. This is just like a war between the villager and the locals. But the locals, especially the villagers, know that they need to win this because their cultural value is really important and needs to be preserved. The only way the villager found to prevent this situation was to make the villager give up or quit by fighting and annoy the villager. This plan looks simple but impossible to work, but they didn't care anyway because they know this is the easiest way to solve it. After 1 week has come, it is 5 a.m. The villager has come to the village and started to kick out some villagers, but they didn't know if the villager had set a trap for them. The villager was waste time and hunt them. They used a long broomstick as a weapon, homemade chili sauce and as a pepper spray, and also a pan as and a metal spatula to annoy them very uncomfortable sound. Soon after they entered the village, all the gates suddenly shut, and the villager was trapped inside. The villager moved fast and started hunting them one by one until they can resist more and flee. Everything was expected until the next day. At 8:15 a.m., the villager attacked the village for the second time. This time the villager have more preparation, but the villager has no match with the villager. The villager have more savage than the villager. They show the true power of the village, and the villager retired again. On the next day, they sent a letter which said, "We get it, you guys can have the village. You win." The villager was very happy with the result. They could feel the freedom, but not 100% freedom. Outside the village, the conditions is still very complicated. Saran, as the villager leader in Bali, kept pushing the local to move so they could have the islands and many more. Suta, on the other hand, is really planning to independence, and Suta team up with some people every day. More people join. On Friday evening, a couple days after the freedom in the village, Suta managed to invite the local in Bali to work as a team of freedom and the Bali Islands. Suta has planned that day where they will attack all villager homes in Bali. They try to annoy them until they realize they can take the Bali Islands. Suta has planned the attraction for next week. So from now, they are planning a deep strategy for this action. Suta didn't want to get anyone to get hurt. He wanted this fight to be safe. Next week, on the Friday evening, the fight began. The workers split into three different groups. Every group have their own task and place for their attack. So far, everything working as planned. In just a couple hours, the locals succeed. The virtual leaders ran already tired of this kind of action from the locals, and later that day, He give up and abandoned the project that the Voyager, that is to take over the Barry Islands. Suta is really happy with the result. Meanwhile, Sun apologized to the local because they had tried to take over the Barry Islands and finishing the Baroness culture. And for the Voyager, he also apologized to the failure of the takeover project. And this ends with a happy ending with the local, especially for Suta, because they can preserve the culture.
Hello, my name is Jenny from 89C, and I will be telling you my story titled Exile to Betrayal. Stories have all kinds of protagonists, one brave hero to a timid boy with big dreams. Yet here, we follow a boy named Amaru and his companion, Mayatsu. Amaru wakes up, the sunlight framing his disheveled state as a familiar yet unwanted voice immediately rings in his ear, making him pull the covers over his head in a futile attempt to hide from the spirit. Amaru, look, look! The fox spirit Mayatsu had a dead bird in his mouth as he dropped it on Amaru unprompted. Oops, the fox said mischievously, before disappearing in a puff of cold smoke. This is Amaru's life, continuously tormented by a fox spirit named Mayatsu for some great sin he's committed in his past life. He didn't even know why he's being haunted. After all, doesn't the past need to stay in the past? Down his spine, the water suddenly shifts to scalding hot. Bad for the bills and for Amaru as he jerks back when the water burns his skin, making him hiss. A small giggle escapes the fox's lips. Amaru knows that a sly grin is present on that damn spirit's face. Amaru gets the water fixed swiftly, turning it back to the cold water that he enjoys. Well, he doesn't really enjoy cold water, but it helps keep the bills somewhat low. After a cold bath, Amaru swiftly makes his way through the streets of Lotus Pagoda, navigating through the pathways until he comes across the post office and clocks in. He clocks into his work at post office and collects the letters he's supposed to deliver before shoving them into his bag. I don't know, but I'd be damned if you make me fall into a ditch again, he replied sarcastically. Amaru practically growled in slight anger and annoyance before departing once more to deliver letters. Mayatsu merely giggles as Amaru walks through the spirit-immortal-filled streets. Different kinds of spirits with a wide array of forms are present in the streets, some mingling with mortals, challenging the boundaries between them, and some causing mischief, making store vendors yell at them in annoyance and anger. The MRT isn't crowded on weekends, mainly filled with teens meeting their friends as they laugh and chat noisily. Amaru is quick to scan his work ID, grateful that his office pays for the transports needed, and goes to the nearest train that goes to northeast of Lotus Pagoda. Sitting in the empty train car, Amaru takes all the letters he had to deliver and sees the addresses. Relief washed over him as he realized he wouldn't need to travel far. Most of the letters' destinations are on the Marigold and Lavender Streets, which were all at northeast Lotus Pagoda. You live such a boring life, Mayatsu huffs at the train, starts moving from one station to another. Delivering mail only? Well, at least the pay is good. Oh, can we get some fish on the way home? Mayatsu asks, but he knows that even if Amaru protests and denies his wish, he'll just sneak out and buy some with Amaru's monies anyway. Amaru sighs, tucking the letters back into his bag as he plans his route in his head. He's been all around Lotus Pagoda. It's a wonder if there's any place he hasn't been yet other than the interiors of the Sun Towers. Shut up, will you? I'm thinking. Your voice gives me a headache. The human practically growls at the spirit, slapping a clawed hand that was approaching him. Sitting in the empty train car, Amaru takes all the letters he had to deliver and sees the addresses. Relief washed over him as he realized he wouldn't need to travel far. Most of the letters' destinations are on the Marigold and Lavender Streets, which were all at northeast Lotus Pagoda. You live such a boring life, Mayatsu huffs at the train, starts moving from one station to another. Delivering mail only? Well, at least the pay is good. Oh, can we get some fish on the way home? Mayatsu asks, but he knows that even if Amaru protests and denies his wish, he'll just sneak out and buy some with Amaru's monies anyway. Amaru sighs, tucking the letters back into his back as he plants his root in his head. He's been all around Lotus Pagoda. It's a wonder if there's any place he hasn't been yet other than the interiors of the Sun Towers. Shut up, will you? I'm thinking. Your voice gives me a headache. The human practically growls at the spirit, slapping a clawed hand that was approaching him. Sitting in the empty train car, Amaru takes all the letters he had to deliver and sees the addresses. Relief washed over him as he realized he wouldn't need to travel far. Most of the letters' destinations are on the Marigold and Lavender Streets, which were all at northeast Lotus Pagoda. You live such a boring life, Mayatsu huffs at the train, starts moving from one station to another. Delivering mail only? Well, at least the pay is good. Oh, can we get some fish on the way home? Mayatsu asks, but he knows that even if Amaru protests and denies his wish, he'll just sneak out and buy some with Amaru's monies anyway. Amaru sighs, tucking the letters back into his back as he plants his root in his head. He's been all around Lotus Pagoda. It's a wonder if there's any place he hasn't been yet other than the interiors of the Sun Towers. Shut up, will you? I'm thinking. Your voice gives me a headache. The human practically growls at the spirit, slapping a clawed hand that was approaching him. The ride to the northeast of Lotus Pagoda was a short one, only about an hour. Stepping out onto the station, it's fairly empty like always, besides for a few commuting students of those who went to Helios University, a grand university known for its wide variety of majors, or maybe Lorena Library, the biggest library in Lotus Pagoda. Just as Amaru was walking to the next house, a person calls him and beckons him to go down an alleyway. Young man, come here, come. Don't be shy. The voice sounds mysterious and suspicious, indicating that it may be a beckoning spirit. Just as Amaru was about to brush it off and continue on his route, it seems that nothing good can just come out of my life, can it? He begrudgingly thought as he moved away. Multiple pairs of black arms suddenly emerged from the dark alleyway, finding purchase on Amaru's limbs as he's unceremoniously stripped away from his spirit companion, and his body being pulled into the alleyway. Amaru felt only a cushioned velvet chair as an annoyed groan left his lips. I can never just have one nice day, can I? Amaru growls under his breath, annoyance clearly seen as day on his expression, and Mayatsu merely snickers as a fox. Spirit appears beside him and looms over his shoulder yet again. Wonderful young man, did you have a spirit haunting you perchance? A very enigmatic voice says. Hundreds of eyes peer onto Amaru's very soul as they watch observantly from the darkness. Well, for just one soul, you can get that burden of spirit away. The eyes close and sink before shortly opening again, advertising their services happily as if the figure hand just stated the obvious, just pulling an unwilling Amaru into an empty alleyway in the middle of broad daylight. Mayatsu, on the other hand, does not like this at all. Amaru merely lets out a small scoff, pushing Mayatsu away as he stood up and dusted his pants. I'm not interested in your questionable offer. Besides, I have a job to do, he says, getting up and leaving, making Mayatsu smile triumphantly while making a mocking expression to a sea of eyes. That was weird, Amaru thinks, but what's more weird is Mayatsu's behavior after that enigmatic sea of eyes said something about Mayatsu being put to the pound again. Mayatsu, he calls out, looking around for the spock spirit, only to feel a sudden weight on his shoulder. Raising an eyebrow, Amaru sighs as he sees Mayatsu in his unironically fluffy fox form, sulking like a ball of fluff. Hey, what are you sulking about this time, huh? Amaru sighs, reaching to the next house in a short while before slipping the destined letter into the mailbox. Amaru looks over to the fox again, seeing him still angry and whipping his tail from side to side, effectively hitting Amaru in the back of the head several times. Quit it, will you, dog? Mayatsu merely gaps sarcastically, taking offense as he disappears from Amaru's shoulder yet again. Amaru merely sighs, getting on the last letter from his bag. To his surprise, it's located in Arroyo Street, which is rare since not many humans live there as spirits dominated the houses due to many shrines and forestry there, making it a perfect home for them. Amaru goes to sit on the last train car, where it was empty aside from a few old ladies who just came back from shopping or some spirits hitching a free ride. Though a figure catches Amaru's eyes As he turned around, seeing the unknown figure he saw gone as the train doors closed. Amaru slowly stirred awake as the train came to a screeching halt. He pulled one of his earbuds out, looking out to see Mayatu still sound asleep as he sighed and scooped the sleeping fox up and unceremoniously shoved him in his bag. Problem solved. Amaru makes his way out of the train station yet again and walks.
Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be doing my narrative fiction publish and storytelling video. So my story is about The Sea of Ancestors, written by me, Nono-sama Dimitri. So there was a kid named Baraki. In the past 3 days, he has been trying to grow these plants, Trufula tree plants that were natural and now tied to culture rituals, and now are dying out due to climate change and harsh weather. With how the current condition is, Baraki will now embark on a journey to find the last remaining seeds of the Trufula plant, a scared plant at the center of their village's last remaining heritage. Baraki was actually the last living person from his tribe. His tribe has experienced a devastating plague that took all the villagers' lives except for him. Along the way, they discovered that the act of growing and tending to these plants might be the key to reviving not only the natural world but their fading cultural traditions. This was a miracle for Baraki and his tribe, who has already vanished because of the drastic measures of the climate change and the harsh weather caused by human acts of expansion in technology and moderation. Baraki now has the chance to regain the purpose of life. However, methods that Baki tried didn't work. It doesn't seem to work. In the middle of his despair, Baraki dreamed about his ancestors. He hasn't seen a vision of a new method that hasn't seen. It was done with other tribes' help. Together they seemed untouchables. It turns out that this problem for Baraki has happened years ago, and they wish it not to happen again, but it did. So their solution was to find a place to farm, and slowly but surely the plants that they hit the chemical roots and everything went back to normal. Now Baraki has a new plan. Although he was the only man standing and no one else is around, he had an idea. He took all the remaining plants from other different tribes, villages that has already moved or either passed away in order to gain momentum. He found a nearby garden that was lying dormant beside the dying plants. He planted different types just like what he dreamed, then suddenly impact took. All the plants, roots, and the dying plants started to rise up and turn up all natural. Baki couldn't believe what he was seeing. He was kneeling down on the ground. He looked at the sky and expressed his thanks to the ancestors for opening his eyes. So, the moral story of this story is you should always listen to your ancestors. Thank you for listening.
Good morning everybody, and today I will presentate about my story, and it is about the river spirit's return, Hela. Yeah. So the main character is that there is Francis and Jack, and the antagonist is Nika, and yeah, the supporting character is Jack. Yeah. Okay. So the story is mostly about there is a river that is very special for Francis and Jack, but Nico just want to destroy it because he wants to build a mall in top of the river, so it could destroy the river. So the first story is about one morning in the forest. Francis and Jack found a river that looks like very special for them, so they just want to protect it because there are a lot of fishes live in that river that is look very beautiful. Yeah, so the problem is that, I explain one more time, there is a factory named the Melton factory, and also Nico that want to destroy the river. Actually not destroy, just want to replace the river with a mall. Yeah, so it looks like destroying the river. And the solution is that Frances and Nico just encourage the villagers, so they support them to not build a mall in the top of the river. So the result is that the mall is not being built in the top of the river, and Nico just agreed that the river has spirits, which is a dragon, so they all just respect to the spirit, and the mall doesn't being built at that river. Maybe that is most of my story. Thank you for listening to my story.
Hello everyone, my name is Michaela and today I'm going to be telling a story with the title of the Ratatouille's restaurant. On a normal day at Zilda's local market, she sells her famous fried rice and her steamed buns in a market where tourists and locals visited the most for buying food and groceries. Zilda lives with her grandmother, helping her to do all the cooking since she has been cooking that recipe for over 6 years now. When she was 13, she started cooking with her grandma and now she's currently 19 years old. On one evening after work, Zilda decided to take another path home due to heavy traffic. Then a paper flew right on her face. She was shocked. "Oh my god, what is this?" It scared me to death. Zilda gasped and turned out it was a flyer that describes vacancy. She has the opportunity to become a chef at a 3 Michelin star restaurant. This is my chance. I could pay off my grandma's debt and I could pay rent. I could open a restaurant on my own one day, she yelled. She ran to her grandma feeling so excited. She said to her grandma, "Grandma, look, there's a wanted sign. When I was driving home at a 3 Michelin star restaurant, I could work there, right?" Her grandma shrugged and she said, "You can give it a try." On the next couple of weeks, she finally got the day where she tried to get the job. When she arrived, she was extremely scared because there was a lot of professional chefs out there, and she's just a market girl who sells fried rice. Well, this is very intimidating. I have to compete with a lot of Michelin star chefs that was really good at cooking, and I'm just a market girl, she said, with her head with a very whining tone. Hello, fellow chefs. Welcome to the Ratatouille's restaurant, a 3 rating star. Hello, fellow chefs. Welcome to the Ratatouille's restaurant with a 3 Michelin star rating. Today you will be competing each other and make 5 wonderful famous dishes in this restaurant. It will give you 2 hours per dish and you can do your best. We will see by the looks and the taste. So let's go simple for today. We'll be making a traditional Chinese food, which is chicken fried rice, and the ingredients are on the tables. Best of luck, the head chef yells. Zilda was scared but also lucky at the same time because she has been making fried rice for basically her whole life. Two hours after finishing her dish, making fried rice, she compared her dish with another competitor. Wow, her looks so good, and based off her presentation compared to mine, I don't think I could get accepted, she cried. 10 minutes later, after the chef tried all the dishes, it was finally Zilda's turn. As the head chef took the spoon and tasted her fried rice, his eyes lit up. "This tastes so good and recognizable. What did you put in this?" he asked. "It's a family recipe, chef, from my ancestors," she said with a happy tone. After 30 minutes of waiting, the chef was about to eliminate 5 people out of 10, but thank God Zilda wasn't eliminated. "Next, tomorrow we're going to be making beef rendang from West Sumatra. See you, everyone," chef yells, and Zilda is very scared. Aren't you from the market? How can you, be here? The next morning, Zilda woke up with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. It has been a nerve-wracking experience the day before. But she has managed to make it through the first round, and now her biggest challenge awaits her. Beef rendang from West Sumatra. She has never cooked it before, but she couldn't afford to go back down. This was her dream and the opportunity to work at a 3 Michelin star restaurant in a once-in-a-lifetime chance. The head chef was already there when she arrived, his unusual sarcastic grin across his face. Ready for round two? Soon to be, Chef Zilda? He teased, crossing his arms as he watched her nervously unpack her things. Zilda didn't respond, focusing instead of the list in the ingredients and the recipe card they had given. Beef rendang, huh? She muttered to herself, feeling her pulse quicken, and she had heard of it, but she had never cooked it before. The complexity of the dish intimidated her, and she couldn't help but feeling a pang of self-doubt. She had grown up with her grandmother, simple, but perfects recipes. But this was something else entirely. This was high-end, Michelin-level cuisine. The clock started ticking, and Zilda could hear the chef moving confidently, the knives chopping and the sizzling as they go to work. She stood there froze for a moment, watching them cooking, trying to gather her thoughts. You better hurry up, market girl, he grinned. One of the other competitors, Chef Ryan, said from across the counter. Chef Ryan had a sharp and almost cutting voice, and his perfectly manicured hands moved with perfection of a trained professional. You don't want to be the last one done again, or worse, the first one to be eliminated, he flashed. With a deep breath, she dove into preparation, chopping all of the ingredients and sizzled all of her food, gathering the spices. She wasn't going to let the negativity go to her. She said, "Focus. Just cook. You've done this before. You can do this," she said in her mind. As she starts cooking the beef, she felt a small flicker of confidence. A rich aroma of the ginger and lemongrass and all of the beef and the seasonings that she had put in filled the air. So she could do this. Maybe she didn't have the fancy techniques, but she has the flavors. Her grandmother taught her to trust the ones who had been raised on. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. All right, let's see what you got. The head chef, all right, let's see what you've got. The head chef yells. After 2 hours of waiting and cooking, it was skeptical, but she was fine. Zilda was fine. Zilda could feel her heart pounding at her chest because she was so scared. And Chef Ryan cut into the beef with exaggeration, slowness, and taking his time. Zilda's stomach twisted into knots as she waited for his judgment. He tasted a small bite and chewed, and paused. He muttered, eyes narrowing. This is different. Zilda held her breath. Different in a bad way or a good way? She whispered under her breath. The head chef glanced at her. His face was unreadable. It's got potential, he said after a moment, then turned and walked away to taste the others' rendangs. Zilda, the head chef said, pausing in front of her, you're in for it now. Zilda let out a really good breath because she was so happy that she made it to another round. The next challenge arrived. Each contestant had to create a dish inspired by their hometown. Zilda immediately spelled a spark of confidence and excitement. This was her chance. She didn't need to compete with others in their own terms. She could cook for her. She could cook her own food in her own way and showed the judge what she could do. This was about being fancy. This was about authenticity. She made food a dish that blends with her famous fried rice and Indonesian sambal, combining street food with gourmet influence. The next day, Zilda entered the kitchen in the restaurant feeling very confident and calm. The clock started ticking up. For 2 hours, Zilda moved very quickly and confidently, plating her dish with careful precisions when the head chef came to her station to inspect her work. Zilda held her breath. She was nervous. She said, "Why am I nervous? I'm not competing with anyone." He lifted the plate, inspecting it with a critical eye. Zilda's heart raced, but she didn't look away. Finally, the head chef took a bite. There was a long pause. "Not bad," the head chef said, nodding. "Not bad at all? It's different. I can see where you're going with this. It's bold, unexpected." Zilda felt a rush of relief and pride. For the first time, she felt like she had truly done it her way. Then the final decision came. Zilda was sweating and scared of the results. Does she get the title of chef, or is she eliminated? Zilda was scared. She was petrified. Then this happened. Weeks turned into months, and Zilda settled into a role at the Ratatouille's restaurant. Turned out, she was accepted. She was called Chef Zilda now, not Zilda anymore. She worked long hours alongside world-class chefs, learning their techniques, learning new ways how to cook their dish, and Chef Ryan became a mentor of sort, challenging to put her beyond the limits when she went through the possible kitchen. No matter how high she climbed, Zilda never forget where she came from. Every dish she created was a blend of her grandmother's wisdom, the lessons she had learned on the street, and new techniques she has now mastered. And every night after a rush of the restaurant was over, she would return home to her grandmother's kitchen where they would sit together and share a quiet meal just like they always did.